Hey everyone, welcome to the Avoda Live Zoom. I have my amazing friend Adrian on the call with us, and he's Googleable. He's one of those friends that is Googleable. You can go Google Adrian Thompson and see an amazing legacy of history in music business, and also the part that you might not know, and it's not Googleable, is that he's my neighbor. So I get the opportunity to know he and Karen at a different level where we were over at their house a few weeks back, and the conversation went to leadership and what our expectations around his role is to identify what sounds good and how an artist may function well on a bigger stage or a bigger scale. And the question around what determines that for him came up, and he just started dropping all kinds of wisdom. And at the end of that, I sent him a message saying, would you be on here? So what I'm going to ask Adrian to do is to just share from his heart on some of that, what 30 years of experience has led him to and how he makes his decisions. And then we'll open it for Q&A. I've definitely got some questions around that for him too. So I'll turn it over to you. And oh, look, Jen popped on. She's on here as well. So that's good.
Awesome. Well, thanks for inviting me on. Yeah, I think I've never Googled myself, so that's actually kind of funny.
I did Chat GPT, so I don't know if that counts as Google, but you're
I'm
definitely
sure it
Chat
does.
GPTable.
It's big tech. Yeah, so I think when we were chatting that night, which is great, and you brought something, I guess it just sparked something passion inside of me, and I guess. Um, I just process down to there are three main things, when you say, what am I looking for? There's three main things. I mean, there's the obvious thing of talent. There's lots of talent around. And I think looking at this group and what happens with Avoda, I think for me, it's kind of like I want to pull together my world and probably your world a little bit as well, because I think these transfer across quite a bit. So when I'm looking at artists, when you as an entrepreneur looking at who you work with, I think there's three clear things. First one, I had to play a little bit because it messed with my mind when we were talking that night. The three pillars, I would put it that way, were work ethic, consistency, and character. And I was kind of like, you said to me about doing this, and going like, yeah, I need another C rather than work ethic. So I came up with commitment, which is the same as work ethic, consistency, and character. And I think like there's a lot of talented people. There's a lot of people with genuine gifts, church settings, business settings, music settings. We can call them God-given talents. We can call them giftings. We can call them anointings. Nothing wrong with that. But a talent or gifting by themselves doesn't tell you what somebody will build, how far they'll go, whether you can trust them with more or not, or whether they are trustworthy. And so these three things fit together: the work ethic or commitment, if you want C's, the commitment, the consistency, and the character. So I'm just going to work through these because this is what it is. Work ethic to me is really about the relationship you have with your work. So if you work in a factory environment, where the pressure is on, you don't have an option about your work ethic. You clock in at 6 in the morning, every time it is, the conveyor belt is going, and you have got to dive in. And you've just got to keep it going. I remember we took a trip to Kentucky, and of course, we had to go to Bourbon Barrel Place and Maker's Mark, where those wax things are going through. And these line of people, and they're just like dipping bottles into wax, dipping bottles into wax. If they stop doing that, the production wouldn't work. So they don't have an option with their work ethic. When it comes to musicians, when it comes to a degree, church workers, when it comes to entrepreneurs, you don't have that same pressure on what you do because you can dictate to a large extent how quickly you do it when you do it. You don't have that factory mentality of the conveyor belt's running, and if you don't do your part, everything falls apart. It's kind of like it's up to you. So when it comes to that, it's like the whole operation. is yours. You have to decide what is the driving pace, what is the environment I'm going to set for my work ethic. Um, Nobody's standing over you. There isn't a machine driving you, and you have to develop your own self-drive. And that's where work ethic becomes very visible and super important. It's easy to say, I'll take a break, I'll deal with it later, I'll do it when I feel more inspired. But commitment says, this is what I do. So I'm just going to show up and I'm going to do it well. And if we want to get biblical about it, let's hit Ecclesiastes 9 and 10. It says, whatever your hand finds to do, do it with all your might. So there's a little bit of guilt that I'm trying to put into you here just to kind of go, you really got to do it. There's a determination in that scripture, a commitment that no matter who's watching or waiting on what we do, whatever's in front of you, you give yourself to it. If you want to be non-scripture about it, let's go to Seth Godin. He put it another way. He said, a solid work ethic drives someone to show up even when they'd rather not. And to me, that really encapsulates it. Is there are days when you just don't feel like it. You don't want to get up and get on and do it. But work ethic says, I'm going to do it anyway, no matter how I feel. On the music side, there was a legendary Motown songwriter and artist called Lamont Dozier. He wrote loads of Motown songs that we probably all know. Um, and he said, have a good work ethic. This is a songwriter and artist talking, one of the most successful. Have a good work ethic. There's a lot of competition out there, and the people that work the hardest and put their heart and soul into it will get the benefits. There's no such thing as writer's block. Okay, for all you songwriters and book writers, I know there's a few of you on here. There's no such thing as writer's block. That's just being lazy. That's something you put in your own head. And I think that is pretty provocative, but you're talking about somebody who went through that. He lived what he's saying, his work ethic, he showed up and he was successful and he put his hardest work into it. So he should know if there's a writer's block or not. And it is something that sometimes we can go, I just don't feel like it today, is also us going, I have writer's block, so I don't really have anything to say. We always have something to say. Um, but the posture is, I'm ready to work. Put me in, coach. Make it happen. Um, there's another provocative journalist called Bob Lessitz. He's a pop culture journalist and commentator. I like his stuff because it provokes me. I don't always agree with it, but it certainly makes me think about why do I not agree with you? And he says talent comes after work ethic. Now that's controversial. Talent comes after work ethic. So really, somebody without extraordinary natural talent can, through work ethic, build an extraordinary level of skill. And I don't disagree with that. The reverse is also true. This is my words now. The reverse is true because somebody can be immensely talented and still fail to go very far because they don't show up day after day. And I've seen genuinely gifted people, really talented people who only decide to do, oh, I'll just do what I want to do and what I feel like doing, not necessarily what's in front of them. And it never brings success. Rarely does it bring success. And sometimes they won't go as far as somebody who maybe does not have the same level of talent or gifting, but they give themselves to the work. They have that work ethic. So natural talent is real, gifting is real. Genuine gift has to be stewarded. And you think about the parable of the talents. Um, when we look at that one and you kind of go, hey, everybody had talents at different degrees. But the guy who had the most, he went and worked the hardest. And that was his reward. The guy who just kind of went, I've got a talent, I'll hang on to it. That didn't go so well. And I think what mattered was what they did with what they've been given and what you've been given, whether it's as an entrepreneur, as a church leader, as a musician, as a writer, what you've been given, it's up to you what you do with it. The person who put it to work developed it and multiplied it, and that was the reward. The posture is, I'm going to put the work in no matter what happens. This is what I was born for. So it's kind of like if you slit my veins, this is going to come out anyway because this is in me and that's the passion that's in me and that's what I want to bring out. So for entrepreneurs and creatives, nobody may be putting the screws on you to get the work done, the conveyor belt, and they may not be running at 5 miles an hour and you're having to keep both hands on it to keep it going. That's up to you. So you're your own boss. You have to develop the ability to push through that resistance yourself. And that's really up to you if you have the work ethic or not. But if you don't have the work ethic, I think that's where it starts to flop. So then we hit inconsistency. Consistency is showing up. It's a little bit like work ethic, but there's a slight shift on it. It's showing up every day, doing the best you can and not giving up. It's a form of discipline. It's saying, I'm going to do this whether I feel like doing it today or not. A little bit like the work ethic thing. Probably one of the people who you will all know who talks a lot about consistency is Lance Welsh. And a lot of his blogs and stuff, he talks a lot about consistency. So he will be the best person to talk about this. But I read a book a few years ago which really, really impacted me. It just was one of those books that just made me sit up by Angela Duckworth called Grit. And it's an amazing book. You should really read it. She's an amazing expositor and researcher of grit, which is consistency. And she said, talent is no guarantee of grit. That's really important. Talent does not guarantee commitment and it does not guarantee consistency. So I think that whole thing of talent is no guarantee of grit or talent is no guarantee of consistency. Just because you're gifted doesn't mean you're consistent. You can have ability without staying power. So you can have gifting without staying power. And that's why grit can matter so much. Consistency is what happens when you bring a great work ethic back day after day. So there's an old hymn writer called Fanny Crosby. She wrote Blessed Assurance. She's a wonderful example of this because she was blind and she wrote hymns, songs, political songs, and poems every day of her life. So that every day she got up and wrote something. So when you talk about I have writer's block, she didn't have writer's block and she was blind. She could have excuses going, it's too much hard work. It's too much effort for me. But she did. Over 2,000 of her works were found, unpublished works were found in Wheaton College a few years ago. And it's kind of like, it's not that everything you do goes out, but it's that consistency. It's putting the reps in, it's making it happen. It's the repetition of showing up time after time. Um, I mean, the point of bringing her up is that she just kept doing the work. Whether there was a reward or not, she kept showing up. And the more reps you put in, the more opportunity you give yourself allows you to hone your skills more. I've seen the same thing happen in rehearsals with musicians. You show up and you, like from the 30,000 foot, you hear something that's not quite right, and you say to them, that doesn't feel tight enough. That doesn't feel like it's punching enough. And a lot of musicians will turn and go, no, it feels great. It's really good. And you go, no, 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 let's work on that. And you get the kickback. They don't want to work on it. And then after a while, after you've really honed in and you've got them doing it consistency, then they're the ones telling you, going, it's just out that little bit. I've got to get it a little bit more. So once you start drilling in with consistency, a whole new world opens up that you've never explored. And the consistency just brings that magnifying glass to what you're doing. And then you're able to hone what you're doing even more. Um, so consistency means if something doesn't work, you get up and you go again. It's the whole thing of like, I showed up, it failed. What do? I get up and I feel again and I feel again. Or hopefully you won't always feel, but it's just that thing of going, I'm going to be consistent. I'm going to do it. I'm going to repeat it and do it time after time. You don't need every attempt to be brilliant. You just need to keep coming back again and again and again. All that then hopefully starts to bring you to character. So character takes time to build. Character is built by being consistently you through time. It's honesty, it's taking responsibility for your actions, for what you do, the good ones and the bad ones. It's being vulnerable in the way you interact with people. It's being loyal to all of those around you. It's discernment and it's reliability. One of the simplest expressions of character, and it's something that I learned years ago when I was doing other work. And the basic thing is say what you do what you say. That's really it. Say what you do what you say. If you tell somebody I'll get back to you, you better get back to them because character is uh, my loyalty, my honesty to you. It sounds tiny, but when you keep not getting back to people, then that accumulates and then trust starts to get eroded, or your words don't mean what they did mean whenever you didn't whenever you were starting to say words in the early stage of a relationship. They teach people whether your words really mean something. Character isn't built in a 5 minute podcast or a 5 minute coffee or over breakfast. It isn't built in one impressive week of just delivering stuff. It's built over time. It takes years to build character. But the more you're honest, the more you're discerning, the more you're vulnerable, the more you're consistent, the more you're reliable, the more people begin to know that when you say you're going to do something, you're going to do it. And when you say no, you actually mean no. And when we constantly say things that we never do, we're really eroding trust, which means our character is definitely in question. If you can't trust somebody, they're not people of character. Character and trust to me go hand in hand. So when I'm working with somebody, I want to know I can trust them because in the job that I do, you have a certain ability. It sounds very presumptuous. It's not really like that, but you have an ability to open doors for people or to put them on a platform. And when I open a door to somebody, I want to know that I can trust that person to go into that room that you've opened the door for because how they react in that room or how they react on that platform and how they interact with the people around the door and around the edges of the platform reflects also on me because I've gone, I trust this person to go in here. I trust this person to do that. There's always learning moments. Those things will happen. But I need to know that the person that I'm given that authority to or given that right to has got character built in them. So it's super important that we build that character because there may be other people that want you to go further, but they're not seeing character come through. So they just feel, I can't trust you to walk into that room. I can't trust you to be in that meeting. I can't trust you to be in that stage. And that comes down to character most of the time. So bringing it together there's a great scripture, which actually is painful but beautiful. In Romans 5, it says, uh, suffering produces perseverance, perseverance produces character, character produces hope. So for this conversation, I'm going to make that progression just a little bit different. Work ethic produces consistency, consistency produces character, and character produces hope. You put everything you can into becoming the kind of person who can carry opportunity when it comes. So when I'm looking for talent, looking at an artist, I'm not only saying are they gifted. If they didn't have something there, I wouldn't be looking at it because there's no point in going, there's no talent, there's no gifting. Why would I spend the time on it? So there are lots of people around who have that talent, who are great singers, great players, great writers. But the next layer for me is if I'm going to put my time into you, have you got the work ethic? Have you got the commitment and the consistency to show up day after day? And are you a person of character? Or do I see where the character can be developed and where you're wanting to learn? Not everybody has got it all together, but when you see a heart that is open to be taught and to be shaped, then you kind of go, I can trust you with this. This feels right to me. I can work with that. One of the biggest killers of talent and gifting is entitlement. It's my right because I'm good enough. Yeah, I'm a great writer. Yeah, you should put me in that room with these A-list people. You should put me on that platform because I'm ready. That entitlement to me is kind of, that doesn't work. I worked with a couple of different artists. Was someone who is gifted, really, really gifted, but they want to walk into the big stage. They want to walk into the big writing rooms. They really want to do that, but their character is all over the place. They're not ready to be there yet. And yet, if someone else whose gifting is really, really high, and they're the person who, before they walk into a room or onto a platform, call or talk and say, should I, should I not? Should I, should I not? Is this right? Is this wrong? Are you sure this is okay? And afterwards, they're the person that's first up going, okay, what could I have done better? What could I have done differently? That is the kind of person I want to work with because they're not thinking of themselves as greater than what they are. They are really talented and they could walk into any room and you go, oh my goodness. But the truth of the matter is they have got work ethic because they are showing up day after day. That they're consistent in how they show up. They're prepared. They're ready. They're just going to do it whether I'm there or not. That person, it's a young person. They they were signed as a writer. We had no knowledge of what they'd written, and then this folder comes through of all the songs that they've been writing on their own day after day, and you go, you have work ethic. Um, they're always showing up at the right time in the right way, prepared. And their character is, I want to learn, I want to grow, I don't feel I have it all together. And that's why I say that entitlement is one of the biggest killers. So work ethic, consistency, character. They don't guarantee an easy road. I think when you go back to the quote from Romans, it starts with suffering. So suffering to hope. But in the middle, you've got work ethic, you've got consistency, you've got character. And those will actually inspire the people that you don't realize. It doesn't always mean success. The hope always doesn't end up where you really want it to be sometimes. But what you don't see in the immediate is the inspiration that your journey has on the people who are watching from the sidelines, who may not say anything, but they're going, that person was doing it right. It may not have landed where they wanted, but that's how I want to leave a legacy. So those are the three things for me, and that's kind of like a squeezed out version of what we talked about on our sofa.
Yeah. That's why I say this is one of the takeaways from this recording. Thank you, Adrian. Amazing content.
Thank you.
One of the takeaways from this, though, should be what the heart of the Avoda Roundtable is for you to make connections and start having relationships with other people. So that wisdom like that is the conversations that we just had as a casual hang out at your house and have that conversation. Now, world, he's already my friend, right? So you don't have to, it doesn't have to be Adrian, but you do want to have some friends in your life. One of the things that I think is often here around the Avodah Roundtable is I don't really have community. I don't really have that. And here's my take on that. This is very blunt, but my take on that is get alone with God, hear what he has for you, and then pursue that thing with everything you've got. And trust me, when you do so, there will be a line of people wanting to interact with you because you're moving the needle for the kingdom of heaven. What often happens is what Adrian's talking about, no work ethic, no consistency, the character is flawed. And then you're wondering why you don't have anybody around you just to support you, to be friends with you. Really take his Adrian's words to heart and start challenging yourself. What is your work ethic like? What is your consistency? Are you showing up? One thing that I wanted you to maybe even talk a little bit more about, Adrian, is you said this statement, say what you do and do what you say. And that I love that phrase. I think it's amazing. One of the challenges with that, though, especially in a world where you're challenged to be a part of so much, you can have FOMO, which causes you to say yes to a whole lot of things. So,
Mhm.
talk to us a little bit more about how you coach people around their relationship to the word no.
Okay, I think you started on something just a few minutes ago when you said get alone with God uh, and hear what he's saying to you. That has to be your grounding moment. That has to be the place where you start off because if you don't have the vision, there's nothing to work towards. So I think you have to be really clear. And that's probably the moment in the quiet place where you go off and go, God, what are you saying to me? Uh, and then at that point, the way I describe it is you put the blinkers on the horse. So like race horses, they have blinkers on so they can only see right in front of them. They can't see to their left, they can't see to their right. They can only see in front of them. And I think that's how you have to live life. Like in music, the comparison game is like horrendous. Everybody's going, they're doing that. Should I be doing that? Why have they got more numbers than me? Why are they doing this and I'm not? Why did they get that gig and I can't get that gig? And there's a reality to that in one way, but at the same time, it's kind of like, what are you called to do? Is that what you're supposed to do? So somebody maybe who is like just a singer-songwriter, and they're going, wait a minute, I'm better than that person who's a worship leader, but that worship leader gets to sing in front of 1,000 people every week. I'm lucky if 20 people show up to the gig I've got. You can't compare. You've got to keep your blinkers on and go, God told me to keep doing this, and I'm going to keep doing this for whatever reason. And I think one of the other things for me is like, what brings you fulfillment? What is the fulfilling factor? If the fulfilling factor is money, go after it. If the fulfilling factor is um, this brings me joy, getting my guitar out of my case every day and being able to play it for an hour, 2 hours every day, I could not be happier. Then just do it. I think the old movie kind of pictures of the musician who's just happy in a really rundown squat of a flat, but they're playing music every day. That's great. I remember one of the biggest challenges for me, sorry, this is probably going off question a little bit, but I think one of the biggest challenges for me when I was back in Ireland, I did a demo for uh, a real hard rock band. I mean, they're a real hard rock band. And they said, oh, we can record out where we rehearse. We have a rehearsal room in a barn. So I drove out to this barn and it was on one of the guys in the band, his uncle's farm, and they'd convert it into this space. And they were really good. And I was like, okay, so how often do you guys play? And they said, oh, we only do about 4 or 5 concerts a year. And I'm like, okay, how often do you rehearse? And they went, oh, we rehearse every night. And I'm like, wait, every night? And they're like, we're here every night and we're playing music every night. And you go, oh, okay, so it's not the accolade of the stage. This is because you really want to do it. Your work ethic is you're working during the day, you're 9 to 5, and then you're coming home, you're eating, and then you're going out and you're here every night working on music that you're doing 5 gigs a year, once every 2 months, on average, nearly. And you're kind of going, but that brings you fulfillment. And so they could look at everybody else and go, we're working harder than you, but we've only 5 gigs in a year. You're doing 50 gigs in a year and you're not very good. That wasn't their criteria. Their criteria is we're doing what we want to do and we're doing it how we know we want to do it. And I think for me, that's maybe part. Did that answer the question? Did I
Yeah,
go
it did. It
off?
actually, you did awesome. It led me to another question that I hear often around the Avoda world, and it is something to the effect of God doesn't need my excellence; He just wants my heart. And so, if how would you address that statement? God doesn't need my ex
Um,
because you just gave us an example of excellence in practice.
yeah, I think, okay, I think if your heart posture isn't to give it all to God, then that's a wrong place to start. Because if you want to serve God, you want to do it with excellence. You want to do it the best way you can. Now, is it going to be, there's a difference between excellence and perfection. Excellence to me is doing it the best you potentially can and learning every day. And excellence probably is a movable fence, if you know what I mean. So when you start, excellence is that's the best I can get it. Oh, now I have more resources. I can do it even more excellently. Sounds like Wayne's World or something at this point. But yeah, but I think excellence is a movable fence. But I think if your heart posture is always focused on God, if you have that blinker on and you're going, this is the vision, I think I'm doing it the best I can, I'm doing it the best I can, I'm doing it the best I can. It's like an athlete, their excellence when they start running is, I can do it in this time. But as they keep giving themselves with work ethic, consistency, and character, mentally building it through, then their excellence can be better than the last excellence. Does
Yeah.
that make sense?
Yeah.
And I think it's that consistency of going, I've got to keep going. So it's not just going, it'll be great. But I think your heart thing, if your heart before God is, I want to serve you well, to give Him with everything we have, to serve Him the best way we can. If that is what we're going after, then excellence should follow. And that should always be, I want to do this better. I want to do this better. I want to do this better. If
Yeah.
it's putting on an event, can I put on the best event I can with what I have? And I think that's part of it. Now, we can make the what I have an excuse because we can shortcut, but at the same time, it's like if we really are wanting excellence, we'll kind of go, no, this is good. This is what I'm pushing towards, but never settling to say the excellence that I have today is the best that it's ever going to be. And just knowing we've got further to go, but knowing we've given everything. Does that help?
Yeah, that's really good. I'll create space here in case somebody else has a question. Otherwise, okay, Jen's got a question. Oh, she said she put it in the comments. I don't see. Oh, there's. How have you helped people that struggle with perfection?
Um, okay. That's a really good question. I think the only way I can do it is I think you have to set realistic goals with where you're at. So I've definitely had people who've really thought, oh, it's not good, it's not good enough. And then you have to go, okay, right, let's set realistic expectation. Where do you really want it to be? And they're going, well, this is how it should be. It should be here. And you go, okay, but today you're here. Okay, let's just be real. Let's do the sad part and go, the honesty is you're actually here. You're not there yet. So how can we put steps in to get you from here to here? And that's probably going to take a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, whatever. But let's do this and then let's review. And I think there's an accountability to that. When you're helping somebody through it, it's kind of like you have to have accountability and go, you know what, we're going to check in 4 weeks. And by then I want you to have got this. And let's see if that's good. And then let's go to the next level and see if we can bring that there. And so on. Like you're putting markers in, but I think also with perfection on the person who's pushing for perfection, they also have to vulnerability and trust because there can be a little bit of browbeating of going, oh, I really want it to be perfect. I really want it to be good. But there's another part of them is going, I just want you to tell me how good I am. Um, and I think it's ripping that away and going, no, I really want it to be better and it's not there. And I really want it to be here. So how can I do it? Well, then it's the honesty of somebody going, okay, that's really off. That's not quite right. Or what you're saying there isn't good. What if we? So I think you've got to balance together aligning expectations, being realistic in your mind and going, what can we really, really do? But being open to critique and criticism, not to tear you down, but to make you better and to overcome those things. So I think there has to be a mindset in the person who's asking for perfection to break down vulnerability, that they must have trust in the person they're going to make it go stronger. So I think for me, those are some of the areas that I think that it kind of works together. So it is a two-party clash. Um, if that person doesn't have vulnerability or doesn't have trust in you, then there are times when you kind of go, "Ah, it's really hard to help, and you've just got to throw wider things out to try and get them to crack those edges and go, you need to let a little bit of light in here. So I think, are they just looking for affirmation that they are perfect? or are they really wanting perfection? If they're really wanting perfection, then that's when vulnerability and trust has to come into play.
Yeah. That brings up another question on when somebody you've thrown this word out multiple times,
Oh,
which is teachability.
yeah.
So, how do you define teachability and what does it look like practically?
Um, I think you pick up on teachability by the questions people ask, and also by where they are. You can have somebody. You can have somebody who always shows up in a room, never asks anything, but you can tell by their demeanor that they're eager and they're hungry. And sometimes those are the people who are most teachable because they're sponges. They might not say anything, but you can just tell they're drinking everything in. They're eager to be, they show up every time and they're just watching and they're observing and they're learning that way. Like not everybody learns the same way. And I think it's just always having your as leaders, always having your eye in the peripheral vision, seeing who else is out there, what who's the odd one. Who's the one that's kind of like not coming up and always asking you or always saying to you, "Oh, you do a great job. You're amazing. You're fantastic." It's not always those people that are teachable. They're sometimes those people feel, I want to be where you are, and I think you should let me do it because I'm going to show you how good a person I am or how great I am at that. The teachable person is the person that comes up and asks the question or that just observes or maybe says, that was so helpful tonight and walks away. Um, and those are the ones that I think are most teachable. You can normally tell a demeanor. Like when you first go to someone, I can be direct sometimes, but I've kind of learned that I need to just do little drips first and just see what the reaction is. So with an artist, if you just drip something small in and go, that was good, but if you flip that might work. And then that's when you start to say like, oh no, I think it sounds great the way it is. I don't think it needs to change. And you're kind of going, oh, okay, we got a lot of work to do here. So I think it's observing and in the room when you're with people, it's actually using discernment. You've got to use discernment because it's not always the obvious ones. The ones that are always talking, the ones that are always on your shoulder, the ones that are always in the front row. I'm not blaming anybody because front row is fine. But the ones who are always there may not be the most teachable because they may think they know as much as you. But sometimes it's the quiet ones at the back that are actually the dynamic ones. And they're the ones that you just need to keep your eye on and go, I think you're teachable. And you just watch for the comments. Like, what do they say? How do they respond to stuff? Are they leaning in? Or are they just kind of like, yeah, I know this. Yeah, yeah, you're right. That's it. I know that. So I think, I don't know if that helps, but that's kind of my take on it is um, being observant, trying to be discerning in the room and watching responses, watching how people really are.
That made me think of one of your attributes you had for character is vulnerable. And what you basically just described there is somebody that's willing to say, hey, I just really don't quite understand this.
Mhm.
And sometimes that requires you to swallow your pride to do so. So,
Yeah. And I think we all struggle with vulnerability. I've not got it off pat, definitely not.
oh,
But
I've got it figured out.
I know that's what worries me about you.
An illustration of not teachable right there. That's perfect.
Yeah, right there. I'm off.
Okay, two last things.
Yeah.
One is, and you snuck this in, I think it's really powerful, and that's why I want to circle back to it. I want people to take it away. You talked about the parable of the talents, and you
Mhm.
said something that I had never seen in that parable before. It's obvious, but I hadn't seen it. It's the person with the most did the most work. And
Mhm.
I have found that people that I interact with who have done $100 million deals and they're doing all kinds of stuff that they could just coast, they are some of the most driven, hardworking people. And even though they have quote unquote made it, are you seeing that in your world as well? Is that
Yeah. Yeah, definitely I am. I mean, I think you see both. You see the people who certainly work that way until they get something that is really successful, and then they start to cruise. But then in 12 months or 18 months, and they're asking the question, why am I not getting this? Why is this not happening? And you go, what have you done? You haven't done anything. You're like you stopped working. You said no, 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 because you thought you'd landed. And that is a hard thing because then they've got to start pedaling back uphill again. The people who have a lot of success and they keep going, absolutely, it doesn't stop for them. Um, is someone I know who is really, really successful as a songwriter, a name that a lot of people know, but they're also extremely successful in business and they keep going. They don't stop. They are work hard, play hard. Now, you wouldn't think that they are by the way their personality comes across because they come across very chilled, but actually extremely successful on all those because they keep showing up. And I remember having a conversation about their entrepreneurial side, and they were very quick to go, but I haven't stopped writing. I'm still writing. And you go, yeah, because actually you could afford not to write. But they're going, no, I'm still writing because that is what's in them. That is what needs to come out. So that's the consistency of I could make excuses and go, oh, these business deals are taking so much of my energy and time. I don't really have time to do that now. They're going, no, I'm doing that and I'm doing that. And I'm doing that and I'm doing that.
Yeah.
And I'm also looking after my family. And I think that's the other thing is kind of like there's the work hard ethic, but you still need to look after your family. That's still important. So I think I have seen I have seen both, but I think the one thing that when I look at that story, you also comes down to the entitlement and the work ethic thing. So the person it's nearly like the person who had the talent had the entitlement to go and hide it and go, well, I've got that. I don't need to worry anymore. But the person who was out there with the most talent, maybe not, they might not have been the ones on the biggest platform, but they were the one who worked hardest to get there and they kept working and they kept working and they kept working. And then one day the door opened and it became theirs. And
Yeah.
I think that is when I see you see legacy built, you see inspiration, you see respect come into them is whenever you have someone who continually works. I mean, in our industry, I don't have any working relationship with them, but you think of somebody like Toby Mac, who started as a rapper and now, much older, but still he's doing tours, he's recording music, he's pushing himself musically as well. He's not just stayed with what he used to do, he's always pushing. He wouldn't need to. He could probably hang up the tour bus and just go, don't need to do it. But he has a work ethic, he has a consistency, and he's got character. The way he treats people, it shows character. So I think that really shows you somebody who has driven, consistent. They've been successful. They could have just banked their money and lived off investments and whatever else, but they went, no, 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 I'm showing up tomorrow and tomorrow because I didn't come into this just to make money. I came into this with purpose. And that's what I'm about.
That's really good. Okay, just because I'm your friend, I'm going to throw this question in.
Oh, of course you are.
Can you be called but not good?
Yeah. Okay.
And because you're my friend, you're just going to say,
Jen, you don't need
yeah.
to worry about that. Can you be called and not good? Yes, you can. You absolutely can. For me, um, obviously there are people who are extremely gifted and are just technically brilliant. You just listen to them play, you listen to them sing, you read their lyrics and you go, astounding, really, really good. But the one thing that I can't get past is the person with passion. And sometimes the delivery of a person with passion is greater than the one that is technically correct. Because sometimes technically correct can be sterile because they're thinking about the notes on the page or the notes that need to be played, as opposed to the person that's going, I've got heart that I want to share and it's ugly. and it's not quite there. But honestly, those sometimes are the ones that bring me to tears most, because you feel in every, uh, I think that in every word they sing, you really feel something. I talk to artists sometimes about getting under the skin or putting on the glove. So it's kind of like sometimes you'll watch a performance, you go, yeah, you sound great, but I felt nothing. It's kind of like get under the skin of it, get under the skin of the song. What were you thinking when you wrote that? Take yourself back into that writing room. Why did you write it the way you did? Now tell me the story. Now sing it. Like put the glove on, get underneath it, put you back into the skin of the glove, into the skin of the song, and go, now tell me about it. Make me feel it. And to me, that doesn't have to be perfect. That kind of bad notes, the breath might be in the wrong place. It might not be technically brilliant, but there's something that just draws you in and makes you go, what was that? And to me, that is maybe not naturally talented or gifted, but with passion. And that also then goes right back to where we started with work ethic. Some of the quotes that we used earlier, I'm just gonna try and grab those while I'm here. Um, but yeah, some of those quotes, I think Bob Lefsetz's talent comes after work ethic. So I think you can have a seed of that talent, but if you keep working and working and working, and I think sometimes people who just have this seed of the talent are more passionate about it because they love it so much that they're just going to show up and show up. And sometimes they are the greatest performers, artists, writers because it's raw because they're so passionate about it. And then their work ethic starts to come in and going, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. Iron sharpens iron. I'm getting into rooms that I never dreamt I'd be in. This is amazing. It's amazing what I get to work with. And then suddenly it blossoms into something that when you go back in time, you go, my goodness, they were that bad. Look at them now. It's kind of like, but it's the passion that drives it. And I think passion is greater than technical brilliance. That's
That
sorry. That's just
that
me. That's how
that's
I feel. I
beautiful.
want to feel it. I want to feel it and understand it and go, what are you on about? So sometimes if an artist is singing something that's extremely personal and they're kind of like, you can feel them at the breaking point in a recording, it's kind of like, keep going. Just don't stop because now I'm hearing why you really did it. You're bringing everything across in what you're doing.
That is so beautiful. You've had so many mic drop moments. I think the Romans 5 reframing is beautiful. The parable of the talents reframing is amazing. One last question for you, and it doesn't have to stay in the lane of what we have talked about, but if you were able to give currently your 25-year-old self a piece of advice, what would that piece of advice be?
Um,
And it can't be listened to your wife because apparently you do that well.
well, that's it. That's already that's an unspoken. I have to do that to survive. Um, honestly, I think steward what you've been given in your hand without asking for too much more. Um, be grateful with what you have. It doesn't mean that you become complacent with what you have. But the only way I can describe it is if somebody opens the door and you walk in that door, do everything you're supposed to do in that room because you don't know what the door is on the other side of that room. So I think for me, it's just be consistent, don't be impatient, and serve well and love people. I mean, that's okay. Okay, sorry, I'm just going through it all now because you're making me unwrap some of the stuff here. Um, but I think how you treat people is one of the biggest things that we forget. We can become very transactional, which is, it's part of business. But if it's just transactional, there's no relationship and we don't care about people, um, then I think that's the biggest failure because if if everything else falls apart, if your business idea falls apart, if your career falls apart, whether it be music or business or ministry or whatever, if you don't have people around you, you have nothing. And I mean, obviously, that's excluding God because He's there and consistent. But if you treat people with respect, they will treat you with respect. Um, and I think the biggest thing is building relationships, not for the sake of transaction, but for the sake of relationships. Sometimes those turn into transaction, but it's building relationship. There's people that I have had breakfast and coffee and hung out and we've chatted for hours, and I know that in the business sense, I should be offering them work, or they might be asking me for work, but it's not been right. But then one day, and it might be years into a relationship, it's kind of like now it's time.
Mm.
And I think if I was to flip the tables to me being in that position as a 25-year-old, I'd be going, I'm just going to build relationships because God opens doors. Now, I have to show up to those relationships. I have to show up. I have to get better at what I do. I have to show my willingness. I have to show up to events. I just have to be there. I have to be in the room, be surrounded by people. And I think um, also 25-year-old me, um, listen to those people who have run the race and are running the race way ahead of you. Um, I think at 25, you kind of feel like, yeah, I know a lot, you know. But I think the slower wisdom from some people is just kind of like, I need to drink that in. I had two mentors, and their example and their words still stick with me today. How they lived, I think both for Karen and I, like their examples in their life is just kind of like that helped to shape me. But if I didn't listen to that back then, it would have been so different for me. And I think that's the biggest thing is relationships and listen and observe.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And speaking as your friend, I see you do that. I see your legacy of that in who you are and how you carry yourself. So thank you. This has
Thank
been
you.
a master class for us today. I thank you for your time, and I reserve the right
Thank you.
to have you back.
Well, that's very kind of you. This has been an honor. It's been a lot of fun. Thank you so much.